Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today it's that time of year again to talk about my favorite games of the year. So this is my top 10 games of 2021, and this encompasses everything. This could be VR games, this could be, PlayStation 5, Xbox, PC, anything, and Nintendo Switch, anything in between, just my favorite 10 games overall of the year. And let me tell you, it was really, really hard to narrow this list down because obviously I'm a really big fan of VR. I play a lot of VR games a lot, but I have a VR list already, so I didn't want to make this game all VR games. So I had to narrow it down what was my top VR games of the year. Then I had to think about the Nintendo Switch because of how much I play that thing as well. And just playing all the great games that came out this year on PC and on this monitor behind me. And of course on the Xbox and the PlayStation 5. There was just so many great games that came out this year that making a 10... I almost stretched it to a top 15, but I like doing a top 10 list because it kind of shortens that list and talks about how great the games were that we talked about. So I made it down into a top 10 list, so I hope you guys enjoy this list. Let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so coming in at number 10 is Knockout City. Now, this game came out of nowhere for me because obviously this is a dodgeball game, and when I first heard about it, actually it took me a couple of days to get into it because I didn't think it was going to be as good as, I obviously realized it to be. And this game ended up being a really fun game, kind of in the same vein of a game that I play like Rocket League, which has been out for a while, and I still play that every once in a while as well. And this game kind of gives me those same vibes, but for dodgeball, and dodgeball seems simple, but it's really, really fun. To have your team there throwing these the dodgeballs around, trying to knock out the other person by hitting them a couple times. Obviously, this is a live service game, so they're always adding new maps and new modes and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a little bit more than just throwing the balls around. You can knock out at each other. There's a lot of team play involved where you can kind of turn yourself into a ball and then have your teammate throw you, and if they throw you when you're the ball, you actually do 2 points of damage instead of just the one with the ball if it was regular. A lot of fake throws that you can make while you're also playing to kind of fake the other person out. If you get really good, you can do curve shots with the ball. So there's a lot more to it than just throwing the ball, but it all comes down to, of course, the dodgeball aspect of it. And it's just a really, really fun time to play this game, and it definitely obviously caveats to team play and stuff like that. And I'm having a fun time with it. Still having a fun time with it. Still play it all the time. Definitely a fun one to check out if you're into a game like this. Knockout City, coming in at number 10.
Thanks to Perennial Labs for keeping Knockout City on the cutting edge of the future.
The next one here, coming in at number 9, is a very unique game, and a game that almost missed my mark until I kept hearing more and more people talk about it, and that is Returnal. Now, this is an exclusive to the PlayStation 5, and it's a really, really good game, guys. Basically, what happens is that you crash land on this world, and you're playing as a character that must search through and figure out, for her escape, basically. She's obviously by herself. And then it kind of has this roguelike element to it, where the game is obviously... The gameplay is very roguelike, and basically you discover that eventually, while you're playing the game, that every time something happens to you where the planet changes, every cycle... The whole world basically changes, and you kind of do it all over again, but now the world is different than when you started off before. Very roguelike, very fun gameplay. The shooting is fantastic. The story's, really, really good. Obviously, there's a lot of replayability with this game because of the way that the world is procedurally generated every time that you play it, so you never know where the enemies are going to come from or where things are going to happen. This definitely showcases the PlayStation 5 really well as far as the graphics go. Of course, the loading times are crazy fast and all that kind of stuff. And it's one of the first games I actually played on my PlayStation 5 to really showcase it. That I was like, yeah, this looks really good. This is definitely a next-gen game, and they did a fantastic job with this one. Really, really fun gameplay, really fun roguelike game, really fun shooting mechanics, really fun gameplay, really good story, and the procedurally generated and roguelike gameplay is just a lot of fun. So if you guys have a PlayStation 5, or when you get a PlayStation 5, make sure you keep this one on your radar. Fantastic game, not like a lot of games that I play out there, and having a lot of fun with it.
Before the cycle breaks me.
The next one here, coming in at number 8, is probably not a surprise now that you guys have seen this logo, but it is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, newsflash real quick is I actually did not get into Marvel in general up until a couple of years ago. Crazy to think that, like, as somebody who's, like, into geek culture like me and everything else that you guys see on this channel, I only started watching the Marvel movies a couple of years ago, which is freaking insane. And now I've watched them all, and now I'm obsessed with Marvel probably as much as the rest of you guys with collectibles and everything like that. And now, obviously, getting into the video game side of things, you know, playing Marvel's Avengers that came out before, which I still think is a pretty good game, especially the story and stuff. But this game is definitely what a lot of people wanted. This is a fully fledged Marvel game, story game that, you know, takes obviously multiple hours to obviously play and stuff like that. And it's just a lot of fun to actually play. The graphics are fantastic. The gameplay is really fun, and the story is definitely what sets this one apart, and the music as well. The sound and the music in this game are top notch, and the story's also top notch. Obviously, has that, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy flavor, where, you know, if you like that style of comedy in Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, you're definitely gonna like this. And the story is just phenomenal. The music is phenomenal in this game, and the gameplay is still really fun as well. And I think they did a really good job with this one, you know, kind of giving us what we all wanted to basically be able to control these characters, go through a cinematic story adventure in the Marvel universe, and not have to worry about microtransactions and everything else that goes along with it. And this is exactly what they gave us, and the game turned out really, really good. Of course, being on the PlayStation 5 as well, and the Xbox and all the other consoles, the game looks fantastic, and you know, definitely shows off the next-gen capabilities if you play it on those systems. And yeah, this game is just everything I wanted a Marvel game to be when it comes to a story game. Had a lot of fun with it. Definitely not one to be missed if you're a Marvel fan when it comes to the story, the music score, and everything. And if you're a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So check this one out, guys. Coming in at number 8.
So the shepherds found fresh flock.
The next one here coming at number 7 is Metroid Dread. Now, this one being an exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, of course. A game that we've all been waiting for. It's crazy to think that Metroid Dread was a game that, you know, was announced a long time ago. Years ago, it was hinted at and talked about. And then years went by and no one ever talked about it again. And we kept asking, like, where's this Metroid Dread game? Where's this 2D side-scroller Metroid Dread game that, you know, got announced years ago and never came about? And here we are at the end of 2021, and we finally got our wish. It actually came out, and Metroid Dread is here. And not only is it here, but it is fantastic in every way you could possibly think. This game has everything that all of us Metroid fans have wanted, you know, with the 2D, you know, style graphics, the gameplay, obviously being a 2D side-scroller shooter, fantastic. The story's fun, the gameplay is fun, the style that and the animation style in this game is fantastic, and it's definitely one of the highlights on the Nintendo Switch, and definitely one that all Metroid fans who have been waiting for this game, or Metroid fans in general, you know, have to check out. If you got, and it makes me actually even more excited because of how well of a job they did with this one. I can't wait to see Metroid Prime come, because obviously that's the more, instead of a 2D side scroller, the Metroid Prime series is obviously known for their first-person shooter and stuff, so I can't wait to see how that one turns out, hopefully in 2022. But what we got here is everything I think a lot of people dreamed about when this game first got announced, and they did a fantastic job with this one on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm really excited that all of us finally get to play a 2D side-scroller game like this in the Metroid form, and it being as good as it is, I think a lot of us got what we wanted. Metroid Dread coming in at number 7. The next one here coming in at number 6 is another PlayStation 5 exclusive, and it's one of my favorite series in PlayStation history, and that is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Now, let me tell you, as soon as I saw the gameplay trailer to this game, I was immediately blown away, because you knew immediately while watching the trailer that this is only possible on a next-gen system, because the way that the detail in this game, the graphics in this game are just absolutely amazing. And not only is it the graphics and the art style and stuff in this game that really catches your eye, but when you're playing the game, obviously it being called Rift Apart, you're basically jumping through these worlds, and when you open up these rifts like you're seeing there and you're going through these worlds, it's instantaneous. You're going through worlds, and you can tell that the SSDs and the loading and stuff like that really make this game feel alive, because if every time you had to go through these rifts you actually had to do this, then obviously it would be not the game that it is with the way runs on the PlayStation 5, and you can tell that this is a next-gen experience only. And everything about this game is fantastic. Like, Insomniac does fantastic work. The story, the graphics, the gameplay, the Ratchet that you guys all know and love are here, just brought to the next gen version with the graphics and the loading times and the detail and the animation. It's just insane what they were able to pull off here. And if you play this on a 4K TV, which is obviously how we should be playing these consoles nowadays, this is one definitely not to be missed. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart coming in at number 6. The next one here coming in at number 5 is a game that caught me by surprise since, it kept appearing on award shows and people kept talking about it, and that is called It Takes Two. Now, this game just brings so many cool elements into the game here, especially if you're a fan of this studio already when they made their previous game. And this game kind of elevates that even further. So basically, the concept here is that you're playing as these two characters, and what's cool about this game is that you play it cooperatively with a friend, and if one of you buy a copy, the other person gets it for free, so they don't have to buy a copy. You basically buy one copy, and both of you can play the game together online, or locally, obviously, but online as well, which is really cool that they do that. And the gameplay in here is so varied. The story being told is so good. It's like nothing I've ever played before. This studio continues to chime out these co-op experiences that are not one to be missed. If you guys have like a significant other or a friend that you want to play, that you like playing games locally with and cooperatively with, this is the standout game of the year to do so, and one of the standouts ever made. It's so good. The gameplay, like I said, the story is fantastic that's being told. The gameplay has so much variety. You're always doing something new, always doing something different, whether it's platforming, shooting, carrying things around. You never know what the game is going to throw at you next. And that's what I really like about this game. The variety in it, the story being told, and everything about it is just out of this world on how good it actually is. And it's definitely one that, like, if you have a girlfriend or a wife and stuff that usually doesn't play games, that she's probably going to end up being like, damn, games are really cool. Because that's what this game does. It brings you together to play cooperatively. You can't play this game without it being cooperatively. You can't play it by yourself or anything. You need that second player. But it's just, like, again, a standout experience for this year, and definitely not one to be missed if you guys like a game like this. Definitely check this one out. It Takes Two. The next one here coming in at number 4 is a VR game that actually made this list. And I could have put a lot of VR games on this list, but of course I already did a list for VR. I wanted to make this more of an overall spectrum of all the games I played this year, but this game had to be on the list. And of course that's Resident Evil 4 for VR. Now, like I said in my other videos, I have never played Resident Evil before. This is my first time playing it, or Resident Evil 4, I should say. I've played other Resident Evils, but I never played this version on the GameCube or anything, so my VR was my first experience, and it is done so well. You would think that this game was made for VR, and it's not even just me saying that, who obviously has never played this game before. Plenty of other reviews out there even talk about the fact that this is the definitive way to play Resident Evil 4. Like, they don't want to play it in any other fashion because they did such a good job of porting it over. The graphics are really good on the Quest 2. Which is, where this game is actually being played. And they just did a fantastic job. Everything feels like it was made for VR. Everything was updated. Everything was completely rehauled from that Resident Evil 4 game that first started off on the GameCube. And they did a fantastic job. And if you buy one game in VR this year, and if you like story games like this and Resident Evil, this would be the one not to miss. Resident Evil 4 coming in at number 4.
Once upon a time, there is a dream.
The next one on this list is a game that I just can't get enough of, and it's a game from Ubisoft, and it is called Riders Republic. Now, you guys know that Ubisoft does a lot of open world games. They've done, the racing genre in the open world with The Crew 2, which kind of has ideas of this. And then they did Steep, which Steep was a kind of a prequel to this in the way I look at it, but now this takes the Steep franchise and kind of ups it up a notch. This is Riders Republic, where you can do snowboarding, you could do skiing, you could do bicycling and BMX later next year in 2022 that they've already announced as a new sport coming. You can do parasailing and parachuting, and what makes this game really cool, there's a lot of things. First of all, the world is gigantic. The graphics are fantastic. You can go anywhere you want. You can be on one side of the mountain doing snowboard, and then immediately go to another side and be on your bicycle and easily switch in and out of anything in any of those sports, which is really cool. But also what sets it apart that I really like is the multiplayer. They have these multiplayer massive races that happen every 30 minutes. You're going in there, and the massive races will start you off bicycling, and then in the middle of the race you'll start snowboarding, and then they'll throw in some wacky stuff, like they'll put a rocket thing on the back of your bike, and then you'll be rocketing. It's just crazy. And obviously the cosmetics are rampant on here. People are having a really fun time. The world is gigantic, a lot of stuff to do, a lot of events to do. There's so much to explore and so much to do, and obviously this game is going to be expanded upon, hopefully for years on end. Game is fantastic, a game that I keep going back to this year. Riders Republic coming in at number 3. In that same vein here, coming in at number 2 is another open world game, but this time made by, Playground Games on the Xbox. And it's, of course, Forza Horizon 5. My favorite franchise, or one of my favorite franchises on Xbox, is the Horizon series, because it's more on the arcadey side of racing games, and it's, again, an open world game, and they have this formula nailed down packed. The racing in this game is fantastic. The open world, all the events that you could do, all the multiplayer that you can do in this game with the multiplayer races, the crazy races that you can have in single player with the events that happen. Obviously, it being set in Mexico gives it a really cool and awesome look. Obviously, it's the most varied Forza Horizon game ever as far as the landscape goes, where sometimes you're in forest, sometimes you're at the beach, sometimes, it's just all over the place because Mexico gives them that ability. And it looks fantastic on PC and on Xbox. And, they did a fantastic job with this one. Yes, it's more of the same in a sense, and a whole new environment, but that environment is very unique and very different from all the other ones. And the formula is just fantastic, and to me, still hasn't gotten old. There's God knows how many cars in this game that you can unlock, a lot of variety in the cars and how they handle and everything, and it just looks amazing on here. If you guys are fans of the Forza Horizon series, you definitely need to play the 5th one, especially with, everything that's included, everything that's done in here. And they've already announced 2 expansion passes to come to it next year. Well, they have not announced all the details yet, but I can't wait to see what they do with that and how the world expands. And this game is fantastic. If you own an Xbox, definitely not one to be missed, or a PC, of course. Forza Horizon 5 coming in at number 2. And the number 1 game of the year, probably not a shock to those of you guys who know me. I'm a really big fan of FPS shooters and stuff like that, and even more of a big fan of Halo. Played every single one since the original. Kind of got me into the Xbox ecosystem. That is, of course, a game I'm talking about, Halo Infinite. Now, Halo Infinite is amazing in every way, and when I started playing the multiplayer, it was everything I wanted in a Halo game. It is definitely back to Halo roots, like everyone's been talking about. It's exactly how we wanted Halo to feel. The grappling hook is fantastic to use, the kills that you can pull off. This is the most fun I've had in a shooter in years. That's basically why it made the number 1 list. The multiplayer alone, without even talking about the campaign, is the best multiplayer that Halo's ever done. It's one of my favorite multiplayer games to play in general, it being on the PC and on Xbox, where I can easily rotate through. And it's just so good. Everything about it feels good. The gameplay feels fantastic. The only thing to really complain about, which some of the people are obviously talking about, is some of the way that the progression's being handled as far as leveling up, because it kind of takes a lot longer than people expect it to, especially the way that you don't earn XP for every kill, which is usually how we're used to playing. But the most important thing, because that is going to change, they've already talked about changing, is the gameplay and the maps and the modes, and it's all here, and I'm having a fantastic time. And again, that's before we even talk about campaign. I haven't finished the campaign completely, but from what I'm hearing about from most people, it is a 10 out of 10 campaign for most people, or at least a 9 out of 10, right back to its roots, exactly what we wanted the campaign to be. And it's an open world campaign, and I'm already having a lot of fun with the campaign, even though I haven't finished it. Definitely the open world nature is really cool to see in Halo, and it's continuing the Master Chief storyline, and it's definitely seems to be, so far, at least for me, the best campaign they've ever done, and it's being echoed by a lot of the reviews out there already. So I'm excited to dive into that, but this made my number 1 list, not even considering the campaign. Just the multiplayer itself made it my number 1 game of the year already, and the campaign is just adding on top of that. And I can't wait to finish the campaign and continue going on the multiplayer for years to come. And they knocked it out of the park with this one, especially with Halo Infinite being free to play for the multiplayer, and you only need to pay for the campaign. Halo Infinite coming in at number 1.
Alright guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed my top 10 of the year. I know there's a lot of games that could have been on this list when it comes to VR and the Nintendo Switch. There's a lot of games that were not on this list, because making a top 10 list is hard when all these games came out this year. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to have your own game of the year and your own games that you guys are going to be talking about. Definitely share those with the rest of us down in the comments below. But I hope you guys enjoyed this list, and some of you guys got some games that you didn't maybe have on your radar before that are now on your radar. If you guys have any questions about what you guys saw in today's video, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.